अरहंत सिद्ध सुर उपाध्याय साधु सर्व अर्थ के प्रकाशी मांगलिक उपकारी है। तीन को स्वरूप जानी रागते भई जो भक्ति काय को नमाए स्तुति को उच्चारी है। धन्य धन्य तुम्ही से काज सब आज गयो कर चोरी बारंबार वंदना हमारी है। मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहते हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। So welcome to this special class of Bara Bhavna. We are going to begin with Asrav Bhavna, seventh in the sequence. We have already discussed six, and first six are related to two fundamental elements, Jeev and Ajeev, soul and non-soul. And the balance six are related to the other five elements like influx, bondage, dissociation, influx, bondage, stoppage, dissociation, and liberation. Okay. So this is the first in the sequence of the next six, Asrav Bhavna. So here we would be discussing not only influx, but also bondage and also its subdivisions, auspicious and inauspicious, punya and pap, virtues and sin. Okay. All this we will cover in one bhavna, Asrav Bhavna. So what is Asrav Bhavna? Asrav Bhavana is again a contemplation, a spatial contemplation, where we are discriminating between two things. One is, of course, the soul, and the other is the influx, the Asrav. Okay. So in Asrav Bhavana, we don't contemplate to manifest influx, but we contemplate how to get rid of that influx. So in a sense, Asrav Bhavana is not Asrav, but it is stoppage. Okay. So when we take shelter in our pure soul, this is the time that the disposition of delusion, attachments, and aversion does not arise. And that is the only way to ward off this delusion, attachments, and aversion. This is how the stoppage happens. First, you take shelter in your soul, and then subsequently, the stoppage of this influx happens. Influx of karma stops. Okay. So in the very first point, we are going to discuss a very deep methodology of how to discriminate between the two. The soul on one side and the influx on the other side. So Acharya Dev this is taken from Kunkunda Acharya Dev's Samay Sarji Granth, very popular Granth, scripture, Samay Sar. And out of that, in the second chapter, Karta Karm Adhikar, this is regarding verse number 72 and 74. So Acharya Kunkundev will teach us how to discriminate between the two. So when we want to discriminate between the two, we have to understand, we have to analyze their characteristics, both the characteristics, soul's characteristics also, and influxus characteristics also. And when we analyze that way, then we are able to discriminate, oh, then these two are different. So once we realize this, the difference between the two, we automatically take shelter in the soul. Okay. So first step would be to realize the difference between the two. And the second step would be to adapt what is worth taking shelter in and to renounce what is not worth, what is worthy of rejection, undesirable, discardable. Okay. So the main point would be to first know the characteristics of both and then decide on whether it is Hey, Upadey or Gne, whether it is just a knowable or whether it is worth adopting or it is worth rejecting. These three decisions we have to take, and these 2 points form the major discussion on this Asrav Bhavna. Okay, so ready? The first point, yesterday we had done the marking. So we did not repeat the markings. We can straightway read the chapter. Okay, so Soumya, we'll start with you. You can read the Hindi verse also.
Sir, can I share the screen so that...
Sorry. Yes.
Sir, you have made Himali the co-host
Acha?
in place of me.
Yeah. Slight distractions and you make mistakes. Yes.
Sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So I have to start from point 1.
Yes. It's on page number 99.
Okay, sir. So I will skip the Sanskrit part and come to the
Yeah.
English one.
Yeah.
The unity and mindness, ekatva and mamatva in the association of material substances like the body and others, and the arising of waves of delusion in the soul through the goal of these shariradi, which are of the nature of attachment and aversion, rag, dvesh, roop, constitute bhavashrav, that is mental influxes. And due to the nimitta of these bhavashrav, the transformation of karman vargana, that is karmic aggregates, into the form of karma is dravyashrav, influx of material substances. Bhavashrav and dravyashrav, in addition to these two distinctions, are also divided into 5 further types of influx. Mithyatva, that is false faith; avirati, non-restraint; pramad, carelessness; kashaya, passion; and yog, attachment or union. These 5 bhav also exist in 2 forms, bhav and dravya. Among them, bhav mithyatwadi refers to the transformation into a distorted nature, vikari parinam, of the soul. And the Dravya Mithyattvadi refers to the transformation into the karma form, that is Karman Rupa Parinam of the Karman Vargna, that is karmic aggregates. Just as Shariradi Sanyog, associations like the body, etc., are impermanent, these Ashra Bhav are also impermanent, anitya, devoid of refuge, asharan, impure, different from the Atma Swabhav, the cause of wandering in the 4 destinies, Chaturgati, of the nature of suffering, the cause of suffering, and insentient. Distinct from these, the indivisible Jnanadi Ananta Guno ka Akhand Pind Bhagwan Atma, like the mass of infinite qualities like knowledge, etc. The eternal, Nitya, supreme refuge, Paramasharanabhuta, free from the cycle of worldly wandering, supremely, the source of bliss, Ananda ka Kand, and also the cause of attainment of Atindriya Ananda, transcendental bliss. In this context, the following statements of Acharya Kunkul should be observed. Sir, should I read the meaning of this that you sent in the...
So I have shared you in the group,
Yeah, so sir, that I have incorporated in the box
Yes.
below.
Okay, fine. Then you
So,
can do the issue.
knowing the impurity, perversity, and painful nature of influxes, the ashraf, the soul withdraws from them. The influxes bound with the soul are unstable, transient, helpless, and of the nature of suffering, and they result in suffering. Knowing this, the wise one becomes detached from them. While clarifying the above aforementioned statement, Acharya Amrit Chandra writes in Atmakhyati, just as algae or slime is found in water in the form of impurities, in the same
Stop,
way,
stop. So let me explain you the points in this first point only. Then only you will be able to understand better. Okay. So first of all, some correction. In the first paragraph itself, the unity would be oneness. The oneness and mineness. Ekatva is always oneness and mamatva is mineness. Okay. In the association of metal substance, this is okay. Arising the waves of attachment, aversion. Okay, it is not delusion, but and the arising waves of attachment dash aversion in the modification of soul. So you have to add this modification of soul. Okay, then you cut all these through the goal of these sariradi, which are the nature of attachment and aversion. All this you cancel. Okay,
so waves of delusion की जगह क्या लिखना है?
waves of attachment dash aversion. Arise attachment aversion. Okay, in the modification of soul, that's all, full stop. Then you cut everything else in this sentence. It's not full stop but comma. Okay, constitute bhav asrav, psychic influx, not mental influx, mental influxes, but it will be psychic influx. We used standard words. Okay, so always bhav we used psychic, and then everything is okay. And in the next paragraph, bhavasrav, dravyasrav, in addition to these two distinctions, okay, you can write comma there. Influx is also divided. You cancel R, you write there. Influx is also divided into 5 further types. Okay, then you cut off influx. So these are not the 5 divisions of Bhavasrav and Dravyasrav, but this is a further division of influx. So influx is divided into 2 ways. One is Bhavasrav, Dravyasrav. Bhavasrav is psychic influx and Dravyasrav is material influx. Okay. So this delusion, attachment, aversions are all Bhavasrav, and corresponding to that, the karmas that we bind are dravyasrav, material influx. Okay. So into further 5 types of influx you cancel. Then mithyatva, bracket you put is at delusion. Avirati is okay. Pramad is negligence. Negligence. We use negligence as a standard word. Kasha is okay. Yog is yog, you can put it in the bracket mind, speech, and body. Not attachment, but mind, speech, and body. Okay. So this 5 bhav also exist in 2 forms, bhav and dravya. So we have bhav mithyatva, dravya mithya. We have bhav avirati, dravya avirati. So all the bhav part, psychic part is connected to the modification of the soul. And all the dravya part, material influx is all connected with karmic aggregates, carbon vargana. Okay.
So, one second.
Hmm.
So, in this paragraph, Bhavasrav and Dravya in addition to these two distinctions,
Hmm.
we have to consider R and write influx is. Influx is further divided into types of influx.
Right. 5 further types, that's all. Mithyatva, avirati.
Okay, sir.
Hmm. So that is done, right? Distinction from these pure soul is the indivisible. Now, the author is taking into the method of discrimination. So distinction from these pure soul is, distinction from this, you can write pure soul is the indivisible. Okay. Like mass of infinite qualities like knowledge, etc., is eternal. The supreme refuge, free from the cycle of worldly wandering, then supremely pure. You write down pure, pure word is missing. Supremely pure soul, the source of bliss, and also the cause of the attainment of transcendental bliss, Atindriya Anand. Okay. So on one side we have the asrav or the influx, and on the other side we have pure soul. Now the description will be between these two. Then Kunkund Acharya in his verse 72, the first one, knowing the impurity. So impurity is first point. Perversity, number 2 point. Number 3, painful nature of the influxes. Okay. So in the first verse, that is 72, three adjectives has been mentioned. First one for the influx. First one is impurity. Second is perversity. The third word is painful nature of the influxes. Okay. The soul withdraws from them. So what is, by knowing these three qualities of the influx, what the soul is doing? Withdraws from them. That means it doesn't indulge in them. Okay. Then in verse number 74, another 4 adjectives are added. The influxes bound with the soul are unstable. So that is the fourth point. Not impermanent, but unstable. Then transient. Of the nature of suffering. Okay, this is the 7th point. So by analyzing both the things from these 7 perspectives, we can easily discriminate between the two. Okay, so everywhere we have to analyze it this way. What is from the positive side, what is from the negative side, and then come to a conclusion. Okay, so these 7 points are going to be explained in detail in the next discussion. Okay, and they result in suffering. Okay, so 7th point will be complete. Nature of suffering, and they result in suffering. Okay, knowing this, the wise one becomes detached from them. In the first verse it was written the soul withdraws from them, and the second one it says detached from them. Both means the same. Withdrawing means detaching. Okay, so we have to learn one skill only, to detach, detach, detach. Okay, nothing else. So all the 7 points they will be discussing one at a time. So it begins with the impurity, and everywhere Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev in the commentary of these two verses have given one examples for each, and those examples are also very relatable. Okay, although it has been given 1000 years ago, but still we can make out and we can easily discriminate between the two with the help of the example. Okay, now you start, Soumya, again, just as algae. This is regarding the number 1 point, impurity.
Yes, sir. Just as algae is found in water in the form of impurities, in the same way, Ashra Bhav, the influx is found in the soul in the form of impurities. Therefore, it is unclean, impure. And the Bhagwan soul is always found in the form of pure consciousness, thus, it is supremely pure, most holy. Due to being of insentient material nature, Jada Swabhav, the Ashra Bhav is directed through others, that is non-self soul. Therefore, these impurities are of a nature different from consciousness, Atma, while the Bhagwan Atma, due to always being the nature of pure consciousness, Vigyan Ghana Swabhav, knows itself. Hence, it is non-different from consciousness, Chaitanya. Influxes due to causing agitation, akulta, are the cause of suffering, whereas the Bhagwan Atma, due to being of a nature free from agitation, nirakul swabhav, neither causes nor is the cause of anyone else's actions. Hence, it is the rootless cause of suffering. Like the tree and the creeper, due to having a vadya ghatak swabhav, Vadya Ghatak Swabhav, nature of mutual dependency. Even when bound with the Jeev remains free from the inherent nature of obstruction. Like the speed of a deer, due to its fluctuating nature, Ashrav is impermanent, whereas the consciousness soul, Chaitanya Matra Jeev, is permanent. Just as the state of fever caused by the interplay of cold and heat arises in a sequence, due to this, the ashra bhav is transient, while the consciousness-based nature of the soul, Vijnana Ghana Swabhavi Jeev, is eternal. Just as the weakening of potency, Virya leads to the destruction of intense desires, Kama Sanskara, and cannot be stopped by anyone. In the same way, with the cessation of the rise of karma, the ashrav is destroyed and it cannot be stopped. Therefore, ashrav is inevitable. However, the self-created consciousness power, Chit Sakti Rupa Jiva, is associated with refuge, Sharana. Due to being the nature of restlessness, ashrav is of the nature of suffering, and due to being of the nature of tranquility, the soul is of the nature of bliss. Since in the future the transformation of substances, Pudgal Parinama, that causes restlessness, Karma Bandha, is the cause of ashrav, it is of the nature of suffering, whereas the soul, not being the cause of Pudgal Parinama, is of the nature of happiness. In the statements of Samaysar and Atmakhyati, where on the one hand, ashrav are described as unstable, impermanent, inevitable, impure, insentient, and the cause of suffering. On the other hand, the Bhagwan soul is described as stable, eternal, the ultimate refuge, conscious, of the nature of bliss and the cause of happiness.
Bas. So this is the 1 point. So 7 points. Again, we repeat. First point. Just as algae is found in the water in the form of impurities, in the same way, the influx is found in the soul in the form of impurities. So, influx rises in the modification of the soul, and at the same time, it is not the nature of the soul. Okay. These are impurities that has just arisen because of our outward inclination, okay, towards non-self. Never a influx arises when you take shelter in your soul. Okay. So this is not the nature of the soul. This is an impurity in the soul. Okay. Therefore, it is unclean, impure. Against this, they have just put up Bhagwan Atma and the Bhagwan soul. This is the first time in the scripture, Samaysar's commentary, Atma Khyati, Acharya Amra Chandradev uses this word for the first time. Bhagwan Atma, Bhagwan soul. And then it became very popular throughout the Samaysar. And of course, in the preachings of Pujya Sri Kanji Swami, he emphasized on this word, Bhagwan Atma, Bhagwan Atma, Bhagwan Atma. That's why we are so much of inclined in this particular scripture, Samaisar. It was, the lectures were done by Pujya Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami 19 times in Songad, 19 times, and each time it ran for 1.5 years. Okay, so this is the most popular of all his preachings. Okay, and Samay Sar means Bhagwan Atma. Okay, Samay Sar, it means pure soul. Samay is soul only. Okay, and Sar is means pure, devoid of Dravya karma, Bhav karma, and Now karma, material karma, psychic karma, and the quasi karma. And the Bhagwan Atma, soul, is always found in the form of pure consciousness, Shuddha Chetana. Thus, it is supremely pure, most holy. So, this is the first point. Now, the second point. Due to being of insentient material nature, Jad Swabhav. Insentient, the one which does not have consciousness, is called insentient. Okay? Jad Swabhav. So influxes are of Jad Swabhav. The Asrabhav is directed through others, non-self soul. Therefore, these impurities are of a nature or different from consciousness. So consciousness means sentient, and this Asrav influx is Jad Swabhav because it has risen just because of karmas. Okay, and karmas are material things. So this asrav influxes also belongs to the same material substance. While the Bhagwan Atma, due to always being of the nature of pure consciousness, Vignan Ghan Swabhav, pure consciousness, nature of pure consciousness, knows itself. Okay, so influx does not know itself and it does not know the others, whereas this Bhagwan Atma knows itself and knows others also. Hence, it is non-different. Now, what do you mean by non-different? Both negatives. Minus minus is equal to plus. So this means same. It is same from consciousness. It is the same as consciousness. Okay. So non-different means same. It is consciousness. Okay. So soul is consciousness. Now the third point starts. Influx due to causing agitation. Agitation means restlessness. Akulta. Okay. Influxes due to causing agitation are the cause of suffering. So when you become restless, that is the time you are experiencing pain, sorrow. Okay. So these are the cause of suffering. Whereas the Bhagwan Atma, due to being of a nature free from agitation. Free from agitation means unperturbed. Okay. Unperturbed. Nirakul Swabhav. So these are the unique characteristics of both. Soul are of perturbed nature. Not influxes are of perturbed nature, and soul is of unperturbed nature. Neither causes nor is the cause of anyone else's action. Hence, it is the rootless cause of suffering. Okay. So soul is devoid of suffering. Now, these three examples are over. Now the next four are coming up, and before that, in the verse number 74's commentary, Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev gives one more example, like the tree and the creeper. So what creeper does to the tree? It destroys the tree. It kills the tree, gradually. Like the tree and the creeper, due to having a Vadya Ghatak Swabhav. So the creeper's nature is to cause harm to the tree. Okay. So that is the nature of mutual dependency. No, it would not be mutual dependency, mutual destructions. Okay. So creeper's nature is to cause suffering to the tree. Okay. So it kills the tree. Even when bound with the jeev. Okay. So the creeper, as the creeper arises in the tree itself, but is a cause of harm to the tree. Similarly, influx arises in the jeev. Okay. But it is of the inherent nature of obstruction. Okay. The jeev remains free from the inherent nature of obstruction. Aviruddha swabhava. Hence, Astrav does not belong to the jeev because both nature are different. Astrav's nature is to cause harm, whereas soul's nature is not to cause any harm. The soul remains free from the inherent nature of obstructions. So this is the introduction to the other four differences. Now the examples are coming up. The first one in the line is unstable, adhru. So influx like the speed of a deer. No, you cancel this whole. Like the epilepsy. You know, epilepsy, seizures. Okay. So like the epilepsy, due to its fluctuating nature. Okay. So epilepsy's nature is of fluctuating nature. It is never a constant. Okay. Similarly, the influxes are unstable, just like epilepsy. Sometimes it becomes very intense and sometimes no effect. Okay. Unstable. Whereas the consciousness soul, Bhagwan Atma, is stable and not permanent. Okay. So you cancel both the words impermanent and permanent and write unstable and stable. So this was the fourth one. The next one coming up is the fifth point, that is transient. Due to this, now the example is of the fever. Just as the state of fever caused by the interplay of cold and heat arises in a sequence. Okay. Due to this, Asra Bhav is transient. Okay. So cold and heat, as in the fever, there is a fever comes from extreme cold also and extreme heat also. So, but it is never both together. Either you can get the fever from cold or from heat. Similarly, Asrabhav are transient. They keep on becoming intense and mild, intense and mild. Okay, it is not always the one. While the consciousness-based nature of the soul is eternal, permanent, not impermanent. Okay. So this is the fifth example. Transient nature. Now helpless. Okay. Without any shelter. Just as the weakening of potency. You can cut that weakening of potency. You can write just as the ejaculation of semen leads to the destruction of intense sexual desires. Your use the word sexual desire. Kam sanskar. Okay. And cannot be stopped by anyone. Okay. The moment the ejaculation happens, the sexual desire ceases. Okay. And nobody can stop that stoppage. Okay. And cannot be stopped by anyone. In the same way, with the cessation of the rise of karma, okay, the stoppage of the rise of karma, the influx is destroyed and it cannot be stopped. So what cannot be stopped? The destruction of influx cannot be stopped. Okay. Therefore, Asrav is inevitable. You cut down inevitable, you write Asrav is without refuge. Okay. They don't have any support. The moment the rise of karma stops, it also stops. Okay. And when the karma rises, it comes into action. So Asrav is without refuge. It is dependent on the karma. Okay. However, the self-created conscience power is associated with refuge. Okay. So this conscious power is coming from the soul itself. So it has got a refuge. Okay, so there is no support for asrav. The moment the karma stops, asrav has to stop. Okay, but the soul is, but the active consciousness, self-created, the conscious power is associated with refuge, and it has got refuge of his own soul. So this is the sixth, helpless. And now the last one coming up, suffering and the result in suffering. Okay, nature of suffering and the result of suffering. Due to being of the nature of restlessness, asrav is of the nature of suffering, dukh roop and dukkha karan. And due to being of the nature of tranquility, the soul is the nature of bliss. Okay. Since in the future the transformation of substances, material substances, pudgal parinam, that causes restlessness, karma bandh, is the cause of asrav, it is of the nature of suffering. Whereas the soul, not being the cause of any pudgal parinam, is of the nature of happiness. So their nature also difference. Okay, cause also difference, nature also, both are different. Okay, so through this 7 point, by analyzing the soul on one side and the asrav, influx, on the other side, okay, highlighting these 7 points, okay, we can very well discriminate between the two. Okay, so this is the psychology that Acharya Kunkundadev and Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev played for this discrimination. And in this way, you have to discriminate between the two always. Sometimes it is the association, sometimes it is the disposition of association, sometimes it is the body, sometimes it is the influx. Whatever it would be, you have to analyze and discriminate between the two. Okay, now the conclusion. In the statement of Samaisar, Samaisar means the actual verse is from Samaisar, and Atma Khyati is the commentary written on it by Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev. Okay, where on the one hand asrava are described as unstable, adru, impermanent, anitya, asar, inevitable, without refuge, impure, insentient, jad swabhavi, and the cause of suffering. On the other hand, the Bhagwan soul is described as stable, eternal, ultimate refuge, supremely pure. It's missing here, you can add up. Supremely pure. Supremely pure, comma, conscious, then comma, of the nature of bliss and the cause of happiness. Okay, so now one word corresponding to another word, one for the influx and one for the soul. So now you can easily discriminate between the two, because there are vast differences, right? So when there are vast difference, it is easy for us to discriminate. So in this way, Acharya put up the presentation and explained how these two are different. And this should be practiced everywhere, not at one place, but everywhere. This is how you have to discriminate between the self and the non-self. Irrespective whatever we consider in the non-self, but self remains the same. So we have very little explanation in terms of the self, the soul, right? But from the angle of non-self, we can describe many ways, right? So we have to in the non-self category, we put the body, the associations of body, then influxes, the dispositions, the passions, the rambling of mind, vikalp, okay? And also we can include auspicious and inauspicious sentiments. We can also include thoughts, okay? All these are the category of non-self. And against this, there is only one thing, self, which is pure soul, Bhagwan Atma, supreme soul, okay? So now I think you will be able to discriminate everywhere. Now the second point, okay. It should be noted that Asrav Bhavna is not Asrav Tattva. Because in Asrav Bhavna, we try to discriminate between the soul and the influx elements, right? So when we discriminate in this way, then what happens, we take shelter of the soul. And once we take shelter of the soul, the stoppage element emerges. Okay. So it should be noted that Asrav Bhavna is not Asrav Tattva. Rather, it is Samvar Tattva, stoppage element. Okay. Stoppage element. You can write in the bracket stoppage element. This is because in the Tattvat Sutra scripture, the 12 reflections are described in the section on Asrav Tattva. Okay. What are the tools? So 12 reflections are described in the section of Asrav Tattva. Therefore, the Anupreksha reflections are counted among the causes of Samvar. So when the causes of Samvar was discussed, then 12 reflections were mentioned there. Okay. So Samvar would always be stoppage and not restraint. Okay. Restraint words we used for Avirati and the Guptis. Okay. Avirati is non-restraint and Gupti is restraint. Okay. So wherever the word Samvar will come, although the chat GPT has mentioned it as restraint, but we should change it at stoppage. Okay. Stoppage. Wherever Samvar comes, Samvar means stoppage element. Okay. The statement in the Tattva Sutra is fundamentally as follows. The cessation of asrav, the stoppage of influx, is called stoppage. Okay. The stoppage of influx is called stoppage element, samvar. The samvar occurs through the 3 guptis, restraints, the 5 samitis, carefulness. Okay. So earlier, pramad was mentioned as carelessness, but we use the word negligence over there. Here 5 samiti is carefulness. The 10 dharmas, the virtues, the 10 virtues. Then the 12 reflections, bara bhavna. The conquest of the 22 parisha, that is hardships. Okay. And the 5 types of charitra, that is conduct. Okay. So these are the 6 tools. First one, 3 guptis. Second, 5 samitis. Third, 10 dharmas. Fourth, 12 bhavnas. Fifth, 22 parishas, conquest of the 22 parishas, that is hardship. And the last one is 5 types of charitra. These are the 6 tools that we are going to discuss in the next contemplation, that is about stoppage, samvar contemplation, samvar bhavna. Now the third point. The primary purpose of contemplating the 12 bhavna is to cultivate an intense inclination. Now this is very important, intense inclination. Okay. From time immemorial, we have a tendency to incline towards the non-self. Okay. Because we thought that happiness will come from them. So we indulge in sensual pleasures. We indulge in pursuit of sensory objects. All these are our story from time immemorial. Okay. Now here in Bara Bhavna, we are developing a habit of intense inclination towards dwelling in one's own true divine self. Okay. Inclination towards self. Okay. That is the primary purpose of this 12 contemplations. Okay. To cultivate an intense inclination towards dwelling in one's own true divine self, the pure soul, the inherent nature. Okay. The supreme soul, Bhagwan Atma, distinct from external circumstances and modifications, and to awaken a deep perseverance, purusharth, effort, okay, to this spiritual pursuit. Okay. So we are discriminating with a purpose, and the purpose is to dwell in one's own true divine self. To achieve this purpose, contemplation is carried out on the impermanence, helplessness, insignificance, separateness. Then before separateness, something is missing. Oneness. Oneness, you can write down. Oneness. Oneness is what we discussed in Ekatva Bhavana, separateness in Anyatva Bhavana, and the sixth one is impurity, Asuchi Bhavana, of worldly associations, particularly body. Okay. Impurity of worldly association from the reflection on transience to the reflection of impurity, six bhavanas. It is considered that these associations are merely transient connections and do not truly partake. Partake means participate in the soul's joy or sorrow. So they are again showing us that the soul is something different, and because of all these six point of discussions in the first six contemplation, we are discussing generally about the associations and the body. Okay. Now we go further deep. We leave the association, we leave the body, we leave the modifications also, and we move towards this influx. Okay. Since Sanyog, association is essentially of the nature of otherness. Otherness means parrup, non-self. Okay. Is the nature of non-self, parrup. Therefore, in the aforementioned six types of reflections, not emotions, reflections or contemplations, bhavana, the primary focus is on the Vairagya Parak. Vairagya Parak means detachment oriented, not renunciation. Renunciation is also okay, but a better word would be for Vairagya, we use detachment. Okay. Detachment oriented. You've done the corrections? Yeah. Contemplation of separation from others. Okay. So the idea is after contemplating, we want to detach from these associations. However, in the contemplation of Asra Bhavana, we go one step further. The contemplation of influx. The primary focus is on the inverted nature of Vibhav. Vibhav means alien disposition. The one that is not of the nature, pure nature, Swabhav, one which is opposite of Swabhav is called Vibhav, alien disposition. Okay. Inverted nature, opposite nature of this Vibhav. So when we realize the opposite nature, we detach from them. Okay. Such as attachment. In this way, we observe that the subject matter of the contemplation of the Anitya and other bhavnas, okay, reflections, is the association of the body and other forms, whereas the subject matter of the contemplation of the influx is the nature of the disposition of the association. Okay. Nature of the, you have to add this, nature of the disposition of the association. Okay. Sanyogi bhav. Okay. State of association. Nature of the disposition of association or the state of association. So this is the primary difference. In the first six bhavana, we were targeting dissociation or discrimination from association and other related objects. And here in Asra Bhavana, we are discriminating between the self and the vibhav. Okay. Vibhav means alien disposition. Anything that is rising without the shelter of the pure soul is vibhav. Okay. And anything rising with the shelter of the soul are the true inherent nature, swabhav, okay, of the pure soul. So very clear. In this way, we observe that the subject matter, yeah, that is done. The asrabhav that arises in the soul due to external association. Now, always remember, all these alien disposition only arises when we connect to the external association, when we take shelter to the external association, when we focus on the external association, all these influxes arises. But when we take shelter of the soul, this influx does not arise. Okay, so the asra bhav, the sentiments of influx arises in the soul due to the external association. Now, my question, due to the external association or our focus on external association? Because there are many external association reflecting in the knowledge screen of omniscient also. But it doesn't make any difference. The oneness, the mindness, the doership and enjoyership on these external association is the chief cause of these influx. Okay. The influxes that arises in the soul due to external association or with the goal of external aims, right? External aims is the sanyogi bhav. It is the vibhav, alien disposition, and it is opposite to the true nature of the self. Okay, atma swav. This inversion, vipritata, oppositeness, has been explained in various ways in the teachings of Samaisar and Atmakhyati. We just saw a sample with the verse number 72 and 74. Okay. Now this is the end of third point. Moving on to the fourth point. 4a. To uproot asrabhavs completely. Okay. From here we have to read. You got? Next page. Next. Yeah, this one. To uproot. So 4a and 4b, we have 2 points here. I think 4c is also there. No, it's not there. Okay. 4a and b. So to uproot asrabha, from there we have to read. And who will read? Roshni, you read.
To uproot Ashrabhav completely. Sir, I'm always confused. Is it Ashrabhav or is it Asrabhav?
Asrav.
Asrav, right? Okay, okay. Okay. To uproot Asrabhav completely, it is essential that we recognize all Asrav as rejection worthy or heya and accept them as entirely so, whether they are Papasrav or Punyasrav, whether a Shubh Asrav or Shubh Asrav. Even the slightest moha or upadaya buddhi or delusional acceptance towards the most shubh ashram is the most ashubhatma ashram known as mithyatva or false belief. If even in the shubhatma bhav, noblest dispositions that bind the Tirthankar nam karma, there remains an upade buddhi, then that itself becomes the asubhatma, most inauspicious. Ashubh atma, most inauspicious ashrav bhav, in the form of mithyatva, which is the root cause of infinite transmigration, anant samsar. In this context, the thought of adhyatmic asata purush.
4a has already ended. Now you move on to 4b in Asrav. 2-3 paragraphs below. It's already marked there. Yeah.
Okay. In Ashra Bhav, rather than delving into the classifications and subdivisions of ashravs, it is more essential and beneficial to contemplate their rejection worthiness, or heyatva. Even more essential and beneficial than this is the contemplation of the Supreme Soul, or Bhagwan Atma, which is distinct from ashrav and is worthy of adoption, upadayatva.
Stop. So you see now, after discussing the divisions, subdivisions, discrimination of how to discriminate between influx and soul, now what is to be done? The next action would be to come at a conclusion whether it is worthy of adaptation, okay, upadey, or hey, worthy of renouncing, okay. So that also we did in during 7 fundamentals. Hey, gne, upadey. Hey means worthy renouncing, rejection worthy, undesirable, discardable. Upadey is worthy of adaptation, desirable, worthy of acceptance, okay, worthy of taking shelter. All these are components of upadey. And what is gne? Worthy of just knowing, okay, only knowable, okay, that is gne. So here we are considering only two, upade and he, okay. So this asra bhav is worthy of rejection, okay. It is rejection worthy, not acceptable, because it is a cause of sorrow and it's harming the soul, okay. So whatever is harming the soul, whatever is destroying the calmness of the soul, peace of the soul, happiness of the soul, those are something that we should renounce, okay. So it is worthy renouncing, rejection worthy, undesirable, undiscardable, okay. And when we say asra bhav, we also include there the auspicious asra, inauspicious influx, uh, then we have so two types of influx, auspicious and inauspicious, those are also included in this. So all these are hey, okay. Now it is easy to accept inauspicious influx as influx, right? A cause of bondage. But it is very difficult to even consider that all our auspicious activity as a cause of karmic bondage, because this is the main difference, okay. So in Samaysar, Acharya Kunkundev had to write one different chapter called Punya Pap. Although Punya Pap are included in Asrav, right? But just because from time immemorial, people has this tendency to believe that the auspicious sentiments are good and inauspicious are bad. To discriminate between these two, the Acharya has to write one chapter on Punya and Pap, where it shows that both are cause of bondage, so both are same in the path of liberation. Okay. So in Asra Bhavana, rather than delving into the classification and subdivisions of Asra, it is more essential and beneficial to contemplate their rejection worthiness. Okay. Heyatva. And against that, we have to consider the supreme soul. Okay. The Bhagwan Atma, worthy of adaptation, worthy of taking refuge in, shelter in. Now 5a and 5b and of course 5c. So that same discussion is being further carried out with the references of different acharyas. Now this is from Kartikeya Swami. The monk Kartikeya Swami has written these words. The person who being immersed in the tranquil modification. Tranquil means peaceful. Upsham Parinam. Recognizes the previously mentioned states of delusion, mithyatva adi bhav, adi. So delusions, etc. So delusions, attachment, aversion, everything as discardable and renounce them. Only he true engages in the contemplation of Asra Bhavana. So the essence of Asra Bhavana is, after knowing the difference between the two, you discard. If you don't take that the next action of discarding them, renouncing them, then there is no use in contemplation, right? So your contemplation is futile if the next step you don't take of discarding them, renouncing them. Okay. On the other hand, one who, despite knowing this, does not abandon the modification that ought to be renounced, find his contemplation on Asra Bhavana entirely futile, useless. Okay. From the above statement, it is exceedingly clear that the significance of contemplating Asra Bhavana lies solely in recognizing, acknowledging, and renouncing the influx causing states. Okay. So there are 5 things. starting with delusion, then non-restraint, avirati, mithyatva, avirati, pramad, negligence, kashai, passions, and yog, mind, speech, and body activity. All these are 5 causes of asra, okay, influx. So recognizing, acknowledging, and the third step, renouncing. Okay. So renouncing has to happen. Otherwise, there is no point in contemplating. We are contemplating for coming to a conclusion. And if the conclusion is not there, then it is all useless. The entire world naturally accepts inauspicious influxes, that is sinful influxes, as discardable. However, the idea that auspicious influxes or meritorious influxes are also discardable is not easily accepted by ordinary people. Okay. But we are all not ordinary people. We are special people who are going to get liberated soon. So we believe both under one category, whether it is auspicious or inauspicious, both are influxes, both are causes of bondage, and both are worth renouncing. Okay. So renouncing auspicious, inauspicious sentiments, then what is worth adopting? Pure soul. Okay. They remain caught in the dilemma. How can both auspicious, inauspicious, merit and demerit be equally considered discardable? Their inner disposition does not naturally accept that even Subhasra and Punya Asra are to be renounced. So this is the problem of the ordinary people. Now, if we want to rise from the ordinary, then we discussed this at length in Tattva Gyan part 2, Punya and Pap. There was a chapter, Punya and Pap. Okay. You must remember that example. Whether you are put into a jail made of golden or of iron, what difference does it make? After all, you are in the jail. Okay. So similarly, Punya is golden jail and Pap is iron jail. But at the end of the day, both are jail. Both are a cause of bondage. So how can one be better than the other? Okay. 5b below. In the Asrav Tattva, yes. In the Asrav Tattva, Asrav element, one considers the sinful influx in the form of violence and other such acts as worthy of rejection, and the virtuous influx in the form of non-violence and similar deed as worthy of acceptance. However, both are causes of karmic bondage, and thus one who believes in upadepana, the worthiness of acceptability, is a false believer, wrong believer, mithya drishti. The same has been stated in the Bandh Adhikar of Samesar. The birth, death, happiness, suffering of all living beings occur due to their own karma as an instrumental cause. Okay. Where one soul perceives another soul as the doer of these occurrences, it results in false belief. False determination, it is written. You make it as false belief, which leads to, it is called mithya adhyavasai. Adhyavasai means abhipray. Okay. So mithya abhipray is false belief, which leads to karmic bondage. When one harbors false belief, adhyavasai is again false belief. You don't write temperament, you write as false belief. When one harbors false belief of sustaining or bringing happiness to other jiva, it becomes the cause of virtuous karmic bondage, punyabandh. Whereas harboring adhyavasai of harming or causing suffering results in sinful karmic bondage. But both are bondage anyways. Okay. In this manner, non-violence, etc., and truthfulness, etc., are causes of meritorious bondage, and violence, etc., and falsehood, etc., are cause of sinful bondage. Okay. All these are false belief and are to be renounced. Okay. Again, you have to write belief in place of determination. Therefore, knowing that just Therefore, knowing that just as violence, etc., is a cause of bondage, non-violence, etc., is also a cause of bondage. Okay, so here non-violence does not mean vitrakta. Non-violence means the sentiment of saving some life, right? So that is again an auspicious bondage. Is also a cause of bondage. One should regard it as hey, to be renounced, to be rejection worthy, to be abandoned. In hinsa, violence, there is an intention to kill. However, without the without the completion of lifespan, one does not die. So this is all mentioned in the Bandh Adhikar of Samaysar, that unless and until the lifespan is there, nobody gets killed. Okay. So in hinsa, there is an intention to kill. However, without the completion of lifespan, one does not die. This itself, due to its own modification of aversion, binds sinful karma. Okay. So one lives according to their lifespan, one dies according to lifespan. So the intention of killing is causing aversion, and it's a cause of the sinful bondage of karma. In ahimsa, non-violence, that is an intention to protect, to save, right? However, without the remaining ayu being completed, one does not leave. Okay. So if the lifespan is over, one does not leave. So the intention to protect is also a cause of bondage. This itself, due to its own state of noble attachment, binds meritorious karma. In this manner, both of these are hey, to be abandoned. When one being vitrak, free from attachment and aversion, remains gyata drashta, in the state of knowing and seeing only, there is no bondage. Thus it is upade, it is to be accepted, it is to be adopted. Okay. So the main is we always remain in the state of knowing and seeing only. Okay. So if we remain in that state, there is no bondage. So until such a state arises, engage in the practice of prasast rag. Prasast rag means auspicious attachment. So if you engage in yourself in the inauspicious attachment, then you will land up in hell. Okay. So don't do that. Be in the auspicious, and from auspicious, try to go to the pure sentiment. Okay. Nobody goes from inauspicious to pure sentiment, but from auspicious sentiment, you can go to the pure sentiment, because inauspicious sentiment is intense passion, as well the auspicious sentiment is mild passion, and pure sentiment is devoid of passion. Okay. So from intense passion, you move to mild passion, and from mild passion, you can completely eradicate passion and manifest pure sentiments. Okay. So this is the journey. So until such a state arises, engage in the practice. In is for 2 times. You can cut one. Engage in the practice of prasasta rag, auspicious attachment. However, maintain the belief that these two is a cause of bondage and is to be supposed to be abandoned, rejected, renounced. If in belief one considers this to be the path of liberation, path to liberation, then one is indeed false believer, mithya drashti, false believer. Okay. So you can delete possessing false view. You can write it as false believer, mithya drashti, false believer. In this manner, we see that just as influx of sinful karma is to be abandoned, influx of meritorious karma is also to be abandoned. So this is the end of 5b. And we now move on to the 5C. It is stated in Yogsar. The entire world knows. Next. Yes. It is stated in Yogsar. The entire world knows seen as pap or sin. But the Jnani, the wise one, is the one who knows even punya as pap. Okay? Because both are cause of bondage. So punya should also be discarded, such as pap is also discarded. Okay? There should not be any difference between the two as far as the bondage is concerned. Okay? The meaning is that the one who consider punya asrav to be hay, to be abundant, just like pap asrav, is truly jnani. Okay. So Gyani always wants to manifest pure sentiment. He is not interested in the auspicious sentiment at all. And inauspicious sentiment is always to be discarded. Now the 6th point. Here a question may arise. Since the contemplation is on Asra Bhavana, how did the discussion on Punya Pap came in between? So in this particular point, you can write, okay, I'm reading it. Brother, there is no change of subject here, because just as psychic influx and material influx are divisions of influx, in the same way, influx of merit and influx of seen are also divisions of influx and its types. If all forms of influx are not discussed along with the discussion on influx, then where else would they be discussed? It has already been clarified that the first 6 contemplation primarily leads towards detachment, not aversion, but detachment from worldly life. Okay, detachment from worldly life. Whereas the contemplation flow of the last 6 bhavana is mainly focused on fundamental elements, focused on reality, fundamental elements. In Asra Bhavana, along with the influx element, contemplation on the bondage element and the merits and demerit is also necessary, because there is no independent bhavana specifically named bandh bhavana or punya pap bhavana. So this has all been included in the asra bhavana. Therefore, in asra bhavana, contemplation related to punya pap and bandh naturally takes place. Another point is that contemplation of asra alone, excluding punya pap and bandh, is not even possible. After all, what fundamental difference exists between bhavasra, influx of disposition, and or psychic influx? Okay, psychic influx would be a better word. Bhavasrav and bhavbandh, psychic bondage. Psychic influx and psychic bondage. What is the difference? The same more rag, delusion, attachment, and aversion, which are termed as bhavasrav, are also referred to as bhavbandh. These very delusion, attachment, and aversion are the causes of merits and demerits bondage. So punya, pap, and asrabandh are so intricately interwoven that contemplating them entirely as separate entity is naturally difficult. The engagement of viragi vivekis, that is the monk, discerning ones free from attachment, is seen only in naturally attainable actions. Okay. Sahaj sadhya, naturally attainable actions. The path to liberation is also naturally attainable. Therefore, the contemplation of the wise is also naturally attainable. Okay. So these are about the Gyanis. Now the last point and the concluding point is the 7th point. There is a question in Asra Bhavana. So I'm just explaining on my own the 6th point, the starting part. Okay. So question is about in Astra Bhavana, contemplation is done on Punya Pap Asra Bandh Tattvas. Okay. But in which Bhavana does the contemplation of Jeev and Ajeev takes place? Okay. Since contemplation on Jeev, Ajeev should also precede that of Asra Bandh, Punya and Pap, where does it fit in? So they say that in the first 6 contemplations, Jeev and soul and non-soul have been discussed. Okay. So in every contemplation, soul is always discussed in every contemplation. But the other part is about either the transient nature or the helplessness nature of the association, or the insignificance of the association, or the oneness of the soul, separateness of the association, and the impurity of the association. So all these are non-self, non-soul elements. So in the first 6 contemplation, the soul and non-soul is discussed at length. Okay. Here along with Asrav, the contemplation of Jeev is naturally included. Okay. So these are all covered. The body is transient. The next paragraph. The body is transient, without refuge, devoid of essence, impure, and distinct from Jeev. In contrast, Jeev, separate from the body, eternal, the ultimate refuge, essence, pure. This contemplation is fundamentally a reflection on Jeev-Ajeev Tattvas. From the perspective of Bhed Vigyan, the knowledge of distinction, the process of contemplation in these bhavana have already been indicated. The first 6 contemplation cultivate awareness of the difference between Jeev and Ajeev, while Asra Bhavana fosters an understanding of the distinction between Jeev and Asra Bandh, Punya and Pap, all 4 together. That is why in Asra Bhavana, contemplation on mental influx, psychic influx, takes precedence over physical influx or material influx. The worship, aradhana, and practice, sadhana, of the divine Atman, the pure soul, the supreme soul, which is distinct from Ajeev, Asrav, Bandh, Punya and Pap itself, constitutes samvar, okay, cessation of influx, and nirjara, shedding of karmas. Okay, so all have been included, whose detailed discussion will certainly take place later in the samvar nirjara bhavanas. Without the right knowledge of the distinction between pure soul, Bhagwan Atma, supreme soul, and the disposition of delusion, attachments, and aversion in the form of punya pap, the beginningless ignorance does not dissipate, does not go away, nor does the influx of karma stops. In Samaisar it is stated, so now the verse number 69, 70, 71 of Samaisar is being discussed. Verse number 69. As long as the soul does not recognize the distinction and difference between itself and influx of karma, it remains ignorant and continues to engage in inflow related dispositions such as anger. So this is 69. So long you don't realize the difference between the two, you continue to engage in them. Once you realize the difference, that these are the cause of suffering, then you try to withdraw from them. Okay, so this is 69. 70. When the soul is engaged in anger and similar state, it accumulates karma. Okay, it causes bondage of karma. The Sarvagna Dev, omniscient Lord, has described the process of karmic bondage in this way. So when you engaged in this anger and similar states, that is the time you do the bondage of karmas. Now, even if there is a feeling of passions, attachment, aversions being manifested, but you don't develop an attachment to that, then there is no problem. You discriminate. Okay. So all the wise ones, they discriminate in this way. Because in the 4th stage of spiritual development, only the intensest passion has gone. The first quadruplet of passion. Okay. Yesterday I shared the names of the 4 levels. Okay. So the first quadruplet of passion has gone, but the other 3 still remains. But that is not a cause of bondage to them, the wise ones. Why? Because they don't develop a feeling of oneness, mindness, doership, and enjoyship in them. And that is why they are able to discriminate. Now the 71. When the jeev realizes the distinction and difference between soul and influx, it no longer undergoes bondage. Okay. So not only knowing, after knowing, you have to renounce them, detach from them. Then only there will be no bondage. Therefore, it is extremely essential that we thoroughly know and recognize the distinction between the soul and the moh, rag, dvesh, delusion, attachments, and aversion formed punya, pap, asrav states, merits, demerits, influx states, which arise as modification of soul itself, which arise in the modification of the soul itself. Additionally, we must continuously contemplate and reflect on the acceptability of the soul as the supreme refuge, ultimate refuge, okay, and the Hey Tattva, discardability of influx. For it is this uninterpreted contemplation and reflection that constitutes Asrav Bhavna. Keep in mind that this contemplation and reflection is Vyavaharik Roop, conventional aspect of Asrav Bhavna. So this is Vyavahar Asrav Bhavna. Okay. What is Vyavahar Asrav Bhavna? Because we are indulging in the divisions and subdivisions, so that's why it is called Vyavahar, conventional aspect of Asrav Bhavna. So this is Vyavahar Asrav Bhavna. In contrast, Nishchay Bhavna is the transformation of consciousness into faith, belief, knowledge, and meditation on the divine Atma, which is distinct from Asrav state. Okay. So Nishchay Asrav Bhavna is actually transformation of consciousness into belief, knowledge, and meditation of the divine Atma, which is distinct from this Asrav states. So actually realizing yourself would be the Nishchay Asrav Bhavna. Since Asrav Bhavna itself the nature of stoppage, somewhere, not restraint but stoppage, it obstruct Asrav states and give rise to passionless states. By continuously contemplating this Asrav Bhavana, which inhibits, which prevents Asrav states and generates Vitrag states, passionless states, detachment states, one should transform into belief, knowledge, and meditation on the divine self, the pure soul, distinct from influx, and may the entire world attain the blissful peace of passionlessness. With this sacred contemplation, I conclude. Okay. So I've used the English words instead of Hindi because now we know all the words. So if you want to change, you can change here, Somya, the Hindi words. Shraddha would be belief, Gyan would be knowledge, Dhyan would be meditation, Asra would be influx. Okay. Similarly, you can do Vitrakta would be passionless. So these are some of the common terminology that we use every now and then. So everyone is familiar with that. Okay. Now we still have 4 minutes left. So we will point out the Samvar Bhavna. It's a short one. 6 points are there. So it begins from page number 115. I am the object of meditation. This is the first point. Okay. And the first point ends on page number 117. Sukhdai, giver of bliss. 116 end. 117 beginning, sorry. 117 beginning, giver of bliss. Yeah. Giver of bliss. Yes. So this is one. Then the second point starts the next paragraph, keeping in mind. It goes on to the next page. Form of the power. Page 118 last. Form of power. Yes, just below the before the question. Second ends. Then the third point starts. Okay. And it goes to the end of the page. Literature of the 12 bhavnas. Yes. Yes. Then the next point, fourth starts. Next paragraph. In the contemplation process, fourth starts. It goes on to the next page. Page number 122. You are in 120 now. 121, 122. Yes. Primary importance. Yes. Fourth ends. Now the fifth starts. Bhed Vigyan. Immediately it starts. So this whole Samvar Bhavana, we are going to read the whole chapter. We are not eliminating anything because its chapter itself is short. Fifth point is Bhed Vigyan. From there to the next page, page 123. In the middle, fruit of Samvar Bhavana. Yes. Then the sixth point starts and it goes up to the end. So we have not eliminated any portion in this chapter. So whole chapter has to be read. Okay. So we end here. Next week, Saturday, from same time hour, morning 8:30 to 10:30, we will be covering 3 bhavnas together. So somewhere we have already marked Nirjara and Lok. So that I just put a voice message for the marking of the points so that much time is not wasted in the class. Okay. So this I will do today and you can read it and come. So we will be completing 3 bhavnas in 2 hours and in the next day, the remaining 2 we will complete in 1.5 hours. So all these are short ones. So anyway, we will be doing it. Okay. Okay. Any questions on today? Hope all good. Just read once again and keep on reading it. Complete, write down the points. So the CC3 will be easy. I'll be giving the CC3 in the next week only so that you will get 21 days time to complete it. No problem. Okay. निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है 9 times नमो